to have just gone on a second. Very honored to have Vimal, my brother Vimal, with me from Belgium. So how are you, brother?
Good, good. I'm doing very well. I'm happy in quarantine.
Oh yes, we're in coronavirus, and you just come back from India, right? You've had a few weeks off in that. Can I ask how was it in India in terms of the coronavirus? They've gone pretty crazy there too, haven't they?
Yeah, it started, when I was there, it started going, being more active around this.
Hmm.
And I was actually supposed to come back a few days ago only, and I realized if I want to come back, I have to go now. So,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
I had
good for
to
you.
change my
Yeah.
ticket, and I literally got the last plane out of there.
Oh
Like,
wow.
and then the day after they closed the borders, they closed everything. So I was like
Oh,
really
yeah.
lucky to get back in time.
It's meant to be, brother. It's just madness over here. I came out of the Vipassana retreat, and me and Niels Philly, who's on Facebook as well, my very good friend, and it was just empty, the streets. We didn't know, we had no news, 10 days of silence and no news, and then just come out to that, and it was like zombie. The film, I don't even see the film 28 Days Later when the streets of London are just dead. It was like
Yeah,
that. Whoa.
yeah.
It's a great reference to have, but my God, yeah, things have been kicking up. Anyway, let's keep focused here. Let's talk about, I want to start by asking you, because I don't actually know you fully your story. So I wonder if you could share how you got into the health community, how long you've been in the health community, and what woke you up.
Okay. Yeah, so it didn't start with health for me.
Mm.
I was in a music band and I was playing a lot of music,
Hmm.
and I was introduced to LSD.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And through this, I had a very big awakening experience,
Mm.
where literally I was not the same person the day after. It was
Mm.
huge, and all I could think about was how to get back to that state of unity that I had experienced, that bliss, that joy of God, or whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
So that for me started a really intense search. And I experimented more with psychedelics, mushrooms, and LSD, and went down that rabbit hole a bit.
Hmm.
But ultimately, I wanted to find a way how to get into that state naturally.
Yeah.
So I started, this was some 22, 23 years back.
Mm. How
And
old are you now? How old are you now? You're 40 something, right?
yeah, 40,
40,
turning
40
40.
something. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I started looking into meditation, and the first meditation I came across was Buddhist meditation. And
Mm.
then soon after that, I went to India, and I studied in India with different, mostly Tibetan lamas in the beginning.
Mm.
And I basically went 100% into it and just gave up my belongings, sold everything I had, and
Mm.
stayed and lived in India. And that started a long journey of exploring different traditions. I studied with different yogis. I started going first into more mindfulness practice, more traditional Vipassana style practice.
Mm. Mm.
And then I was going more into the esoteric Buddhism, and also other esoteric lineages of Taoism, of certain inner Hindu yogas, Ashtanga yoga. When I say yoga, I don't mean so much the physical culture of yoga.
Mm.
I mean the internal energetic aspect of it.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
so I stayed in India for about 16 years, almost full
16
time.
years. Wow. At 18 years old, roughly, were you? 18, 19, 20?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
16 years in India.
yeah.
Wow. Dedication to the path you were on. That's extreme dedication to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my life. It still is my life, but now I've also integrated more into the world.
Yeah. You went
Yeah,
hardcore for 16 years and really pushed yourself into that world, and now you come out as a not that we ever complete, but now you're just you've centered yourself back to a more balanced, I guess, way of looking at life, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've integrated more. Well, yeah, many things happen in between. I also had a
Mm.
son, and that brought me more back into the world.
Mm.
And the path is never complete. You never reach a point where you're like, okay, this is it. I'm done. If
Yeah.
you reach that point where you think you're done,
Mm.
then you really need to question yourself again.
Right. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
I like it. Unless you're the Buddha, maybe, and you've enlightened yourself. I don't know.
Maybe, but I believe even if you reach what is called full enlightenment, there is a journey of life going on that doesn't stop, and that's the spontaneous unfoldment of life that you need to carry on with.
Yeah, I love it.
Even
And
even Buddha, practiced for the rest of his life. He never stopped practicing.
yeah, oh right, the Vipassana, the
Yeah,
meditation
yeah.
he was doing that
He
constantly.
was practicing the rest of his life.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, cool. Oh,
And he was sure high on his discipline and eating very less food and doing all these things. So and the aged urine too. So
yeah, he definitely did the aged urine, which I only learned about recently, and I put in my book. Yeah, he
yeah,
was on it. He knew that medicine, and it's 4 times in the Pali Canon. So yeah,
yeah,
and you're into urine therapy too. You're in a special crew. I love everybody, and I don't judge everyone on their path. But my particular favorites are people that do urine therapy, and you're into it in a way that's quite hardcore, like myself. Now you're doing aged urine, right? And I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
seeing. I don't mind showing people. I saw a photo of you, and you were lifting vats with aged urine. I think that was kind of. It was such a funny post to watch. Like did exercise with it, the gallons of it.
Yeah, that was a funny one. I had to go with that one.
Yeah, that's good. So what is your
Yeah.
experiences urine therapy? What power? I don't want to judge like that, but I mean, you do it because it's very powerful to you, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So I got into it in India. As you know, it's a practice in India. It's not super common, but in some circles it's common. I was moving in circles of sadhus, of wandering yogis,
Mm,
and there was a group that were doing urine therapy, and it was the first time I ever heard about it. And
mm,
their skin was glowing, and they were really youthful looking, and they were just, yeah, they had this really good energy.
mm.
And they, um, this particular sadhu, he had two wives actually, and they would drink each other's urine as well to connect with
Cool.
each other.
Mm, yeah.
So that was all very interesting. So I started doing urine therapy for quite some years.
Mhm.
And then it was on and off, and I was traveling, so then I found it more difficult, and I stopped, and then came back
Mm.
on it, and um, then I started hearing about the lymphatic system and how it's not good to drink it, and I stopped for a bit. I got tricked by this whole,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
Dr. Moore group,
Dr.
basically.
Morse. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
But it was still calling me, and I was really like, this can't be right.
Yeah.
There's more to this. This can't be right because I know how it feels. It feels so good, and I was just doing
Mm.
fresh urine at that time.
Just for which is powerful. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
which is powerful.
Yeah.
But then when I came across the H urine
When did
information,
you come across aged urine? When did you?
Monica was, I think, the first one I heard about talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started researching, and I came across your stuff too,
Mm-hmm.
and I read a lot of that, and yeah, I went all into it, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it has a lot more power for sure. I love both. Now let me say
Mm.
that they both have a really good benefit to me. I love
Yeah.
looping,
Yeah.
um,
Mhm.
but the aged one, yeah, it does something
So,
different.
wow. That's crazy. You do a lot of things. So yeah, a urine therapy's one. You did a video on sun gazing. I thought that was really interesting too. That's a
Yeah,
powerful healing modality, and you got a lot of experience. I think many years back, I'm guessing, with sun gazing, longer than me probably. Been doing that too.
yeah, sun gazing I love.
Mm,
I love it. I was doing more carefully before, like slowly ramping up the time.
mm.
But now I'm just going full in, and then when the sun is out, I'm gazing for, yeah, I don't know. I was in India now, and I was gazing about an hour or two a day. So
Ah,
it's
and what
beautiful.
times? People say it's just sunrise, sunset. Do you do outside those times or?
I do outside of those time too, but my main preferred time is
Sunrise,
sunrise sunset
sunset.
because it's
Yeah.
more relaxed in a way. It's yeah, it's more meditative. I can really get into
It
it and really
is.
get
I
into
feel like
the
yeah, I feel like you can do other things more. You can focus more on
yeah,
doing other meditations while you're doing it. Whereas the midday sun, you just got it's so intense. Sometimes you can't focus on anything else, although it's
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What do you
Exactly.
do? What do you do out of interest? What do you mess about with a lot of different things when you're doing the sun gazing, or do you just let your mind wander? What are you doing?
I do a few different things. Many times I do my standing qigong,
Cool.
which is standing in still postures, like standing like a tree. I'm sure you've seen people. You hold like a ball in front of you. There's different positions, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a really beautiful one, because you're not doing internal uh, energy cultivation consciously.
Mm.
You're just holding these postures, and by holding these postures, putting your
Mm.
body in a certain way and emptying your mind, you're not leading the energy with your mind. You're just completely
Mm.
emptying your mind. So
Mm.
it's very meditative,
Mm.
and you will feel the energy start moving on its own accord. So you're
Mm.
just surrendering to that energy flow.
Mm.
So that goes really well with gazing at the sun at the same time.
That makes sense to me. So you're receiving the sun's energy instead of manipulating it with meditation, which is good in a way. You're getting the
Yeah.
sun's energy probably in a greater degree because you're letting the stillness and the energy come in much deeper level.
Yes.
Is that something to do with being present to the moment when you're keeping still doing qigong? You're allowing more presence and mindfulness into your life. Is that what it is, or as well?
Of course. Of course. Well, it's double.
Mm.
Okay. So this kind of leads us into a different subject. You have, when you practice mindfulness, you're tapping into the consciousness level, right? You're tapping into the empty awareness, which is at the base of what we are. Mindfulness leads to a silent mind. And when you have a silent mind, it's more easy to see the deeper level of ourselves, which is consciousness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you imagine consciousness as this vast space, but and that's our true nature. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just empty. Okay. Many meditations take us to that space, toward that direction, and I would say most meditation
Mm.
focus on stillness, focus on this aspect of being. Yeah. Which is beautiful, and when you really get a glimpse of it, it's very freeing, because for so long in our life we've been in our mind, in our emotion, and lost in that, thinking that's who we are. Yeah, that's very limiting. So when we discover this boundless space beneath all of that, it's very freeing. Finally, we're finding a peace that's always present.
Mm.
As long as we tap into it through mindfulness, through the moment,
Mm.
that's the now. Yeah, the space is the now, where everything unfolds. That's the space of the now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one aspect that's often forgotten is the
Mm.
Shakti aspect, is the feminine, is the energy that's dancing in that space. Yeah.
Mm.
So that energy is bliss. Shakti is bliss. Shakti is the creative force that unfolds from that space, and they are not different. So when we only focus on one, in many meditation, it's very male centered. It's only focused on the space, on the consciousness, on the being here, being now. But then you're missing the bliss, and then you're missing the
Mm.
juice of life. And
Mm.
this is where sexual cultivation comes in. This is where energy work comes in. This is where
Right.
all this stuff comes in.
I love that. So
So,
let's transition
so
to that.
yeah,
Yeah.
before I want to say, when you're doing these standing Qigong postures, for
Mm.
example, you're working on both levels at the same time, because your mind is empty. Your mind is, the deeper you go into it, should be dwelling in just empty
How does it
consciousness.
get empty during Qigong? Is it because you're focusing in on the movements and the stillness? What are you doing to get your mind empty during Qigong? You just really in the moment with that posture? What's your senses doing? How do you get?
Yeah. Yes, you can be either just focusing on the energy running through you, on the posture itself.
Mm.
For me, I've meditated for many years now, so for me it's very easy to just go into a empty state of consciousness.
Right. Yeah.
So I just go into that,
Mm-hmm.
and then the deeper you can fall into that state of empty being,
Mm.
the more energy can rise.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because they are, as I said, they are one. They're the same. Shiva and Shakti. I'm gonna call these now. Shiva being the consciousness,
Mm.
the empty field of consciousness. Shakti being the energy dancing, the creative energy within that consciousness. Yeah,
Mm.
and they are seen as in union. Why are all these tantric pictures of Buddhas and Shaktis in union? It's because of this. Yeah, because our basic nature is energy and consciousness. Creative energy arising out of consciousness, and they're never separate. Yeah. So the deeper you can fall into one, the deeper you can fall into the silence, the more energy will come out. Or the deeper you can go into energy work, and more develop that side, the more consciousness will unfold.
Well, I like that, particularly the second. I resonate strongly, and I'm learning so much here from what you're saying myself. But I like the second part too. So you're saying even if you didn't do the mindfulness aspect, you've just focused all on that about the manipulation in a good way of like the cosmic orbit meditation, for example, just manipulating your energy. You can still draw from both mindfulness from that.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And it's to have a balanced practice. Really, it's good to do both. Yeah. I always advocate, and what I teach is a mixture of energy work and a mixture of stillness, so that you're balanced.
Right.
But even a person going very deeply into stillness, eventually energy and bliss will start to arise. There is no avoiding that, because the deeper you go into that black hole, energy starts to unfold. However, it is slower. I will say that right away. You can sit a long time trying to fight and still your mind. And never reach that point of bliss. You will hear meditators saying, "Oh, I've meditated for 20 years and I never reached that point."
Why is that? Why is that?
Well, for me, my experience of it is I first, as I said, I did more mindfulness work. But when I started getting into the inner yogas, to the Shakti, to the Kundalini, to working with sexual energy, things started unfolding a lot faster. Yeah. So that's because we have these different centers in our body, and in the Taoism they speak of the different dantians, the three dantians especially. And the three dantians is, you have your lower dantian, which is your vitality, which is your gas in the car, so to speak, your vitality, your sexual energy. And then you have your emotions, your love, and when this develops, it becomes a lot about love in the heart. And then you have the upper dantian, which is in the center of the head, and when energy starts rising up there, you get into the stillness of consciousness, to being, to awareness. So when Shakti starts to arise, the sexual energy arises from the bottom up. It can also go from the top and down, but usually it goes from the bottom and up first. And we get in contact with these more blissful levels in the head. And then it drops down into the heart, and we get into love. When the sexual energy and the consciousness, the Shiva, again, the consciousness, the Shakti, the energy, merges in the heart, what unfolds is love.
Yeah, that's powerful. I mean, thanks for the description and the reminders, and even the learnings, because that is very deep what you're saying. How does one... Right, say someone was a beginner into what you just talked about, not the stillness, but the energy part. Where would you recommend someone starts with energy work? Do you reckon they rush into it, go hardcore? What books do you recommend? What people do you recommend to look at? What meditations to get that energy flowing and unblocked?
Yeah, so what I teach is I first start with breathwork, because breath is a very easy entry point to start feeling energy, and it's really important to learn how to breathe correctly. Yeah, we breathe all the time, but if you want to get into energy work, to have a correct breath is really important, because you will get so much more energy to work with. Yeah, simple. If you're breathing up into your chest, if you're breathing shallow, and you have no juice, so you got to bring it down into the belly and start breathing deeply and slowly, which is what many people again misunderstand. Now there is purpose of fast breathing, there is purpose of all this, there are many good benefits of it, but what we really want to develop in breath work is heightening our CO2, our carbon dioxide.
Oh, yes.
Slow down our breath. If you
I
look
thought
at
that was a waste product. A lot of people think it's a waste product, though, carbon dioxide.
yeah, it's not. If you don't have enough carbon dioxide, your body cannot use the oxygen you bring in. So you need and our tolerance to carbon dioxide is what makes us not be able to breathe deeply. our
Right.
intolerance, I would say.
Yeah.
So when we practice slowing down our breathing,
Mm.
we increase our tolerance to carbon dioxide. We increase the oxygen in our body. We increase our energy level, and we quiet the mind. If you breathe correctly,
Mm.
um, your mind will become silent.
Mm.
You know how to breathe correctly. This is why I start with breath, because it connects all this. It connects the energy
Mhm.
and it quiets your mind. Yeah.
Mm.
So
That
that's
double whammy.
my entry.
That double whammy you're talking about, you want to be doing stillness and energy motivation, and moving it quicker. So breath work does both in one.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And there are many kinds of breath work.
Mm.
Then I layer this breath work in with starting to become aware of energy, starting to manipulate energy in the body.
Mhm.
And personally, I like to teach from the Tibetan realm a practice called Tumo,
Ooh.
inner fire.
Why have I heard of Tumo? Not from you either.
Probably from Wim Hof, he made it popular about Tumo. Now, what he teaches is not specifically the Tibetan version of Tumo. It's a kind of breath work that increases your inner fire.
Mm.
But Tumo in itself has a lot of depth to it, has a lot of energy awareness. You really start becoming aware of energy currents in your body. Starts building in the belly, and you start to slowly work it up through the central channel, up into the heart, up into the upper levels of the head, into the bliss centers of the head. So I like to work with Tumo, and I like to teach also Kriya Yoga. And
Mm.
Kriya Yoga is a path that was brought in this world by Lahiri Mahasaya, an Indian saint, who was a normal Indian man working in the government, and he met his guru, uh, the famous Babaji, who was an immortal yogi. And many people have probably heard about Yogananda, who made this path.
Yogananda. Mhm.
Yeah, popular. So anyway, he started practicing Kriya Yoga, and he transformed his whole being through this and became a saint and started teaching this. It's a beautiful, beautiful practice. And
Mm.
it has a lot of similarities to the microcosmic orbit, but it works more in the central channel than the microcosmic orbit. So practices like these, if you're a beginner, I would say microcosmic orbit is a great way to start.
Yeah.
Playing around with sexual energy is a great way to start because it's not subtle. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And many people have a hard time in the beginning to feel energy because it's subtle. Yeah, it's something we're not used to.
Yeah.
But sexual energy, we're kind of all used to that, and it has a
Power. It's real power.
strong power and fire to it, so it's more
Yeah.
easy to feel.
Yeah. Huh.
But ultimately,
Mm.
uh, all your energy work will
Mm.
become just as blissful, if not even more blissful, than working with aroused sexual energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the exciting part about energy work is the bliss aspect, yeah.
Yeah.
And why is bliss important? Like
Mm.
I said before, the Shiva and Shakti are related, are you in union, and the bliss, when we experience bliss, when you experience a powerful orgasm, right?
Mm.
Your mind has no problem shutting up. You have no problem focusing on the moment.
True. Yeah, you get
Yeah,
present to the moment when you
you're
orgasm.
fully in the moment.
Yeah, you
So
are.
when you start experiencing bliss in the body,
Mm.
you're completely absorbed in the moment.
Yeah.
And you're opening all these channels, yeah,
Mm.
in the body. And when these channels open, when we cleanse our system through the energy work and open all these channels, we open up consciousness, and consciousness unfolds automatically. You don't have to fight with your mind. You don't have to try to be silent. You don't have to do any of these things. It just happens. If you open the correct channels, it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
simple as that. And that's also why aged urine, for example, is so powerful of an aid, because I don't know if you noticed, but when I started drinking a lot of aged urine, I started feeling all this electricity in my nadis, in my nerves,
Mm.
tingling
Yeah.
everywhere. And that's what the aged urine does too. It cleanses, it purifies these channels, it opens these channels. So they go hand in hand, you know, with energy work, with meditation,
I like
with
what you said, and I've experienced that with aged urine. It's very common when you drink it to get these spikes. I feel like there's what you said earlier about subtle ways of playing around with energy, and you're saying if you're beginning out, it's more obvious. Well, I feel aged urine is such an obvious opening of the channels, whereas there's other medicines out there that are great, and I'm not going to diss any medicine. Everyone's on their different paths, but there's like obvious, really deep cleansing medicines, and I think aged urine is so deep and so obvious that it's hard to deny the benefits of it. Whereas fresh urine, possibly you could deny because you're quite a healthy person. Say you come into fresh urine, you've been doing cleansing for a long time, but the shift from aged urine is like, oof, it's hard.
Yeah, and it's good to start with those things in the beginning. I feel like sexual practice with aged urine, or breath work, like doing intense breath work where you breathe strong and then holding your breath and such things. But you feel it because we basically, how I teach it too is to go from the physical and then slowly into the energetic and into the more and more and more subtle points. Eventually you reach a point in consciousness where you're dwelling in very subtle states of emptiness, where your breath starts to slow down and eventually stop, and bliss at the same time. So there is this intense bliss, but it's subtle, and you can't get there right away. So it's better to start with these more gross things, and then let them take you further and further inside.
Oh, I'm resonating so much with what you're saying. Can I ask a question for me, actually?
Yeah.
So, when you go from the gross to the subtle, do you have problems yourself? Because I know you've experienced a lot here and you can talk about it. Do you have problems with cravings for it that stops the bliss coming through? Like, if you're going to crave it, I'm thinking in my mind, will that stop the energy work? Do you have to like be, do you know what I'm trying to say? If you want it too much, needy for it?
You mean the craving for the bliss?
Yes, for that kind of state. Yeah.
Yes, that is a hindrance for sure. It doesn't stop it, it makes it less deep, because to really reach the depth of this, you need to be able to surrender into it. And when there is craving for something, you're not able to surrender into it. So it's the same actually when you do sexual energy cultivation, and when you're learning to have as a man multiple orgasms, for example. A thing that stands in the way for that is that craving, is that desire. But that desire is also a motivation. It's what gets us going. We're desiring the bliss. But the thing is, to really get that bliss, we need to be able to surrender. The deeper you can surrender, the deeper the bliss can unfold.
I like that. And do you think that
that's why
do you think that to get better at surrendering, you need to experience it more often so you know that feeling inside your body and it doesn't freak you out? Do you feel like that's the case, where you just keep getting to that state of keep getting to that high state of stillness a lot, so your body's like, I'm used to it now, and it's not a big deal? Because I guess if you're not used to it, it can be overwhelming and you get the craving. But if you're used to it all the time, surely it's
sure. And time and practice. It's practice. That's what gets you there. Just keep going, keep playing, and keep it playful, because all these things are very enjoyable, as you know. It's really important to have a playful attitude and not get too harsh and disciplined